Hey, what's up, everyone? My name's Lionel. I'm your host for LG Productions, and you are watching I Watch You Watch. We are covering Love and Marriage Huntsville. This is season 10, episode 15. Lay down, stand up. Some people need to stand up in more ways than one. I appreciate everyone for coming to my channel. Like, comment, share, and subscribe to my channel. And welcome to the new year, the year of 2026. And if you've seen the news, it's ghetto. However, we're going to press through. You might be shocked at how I feel about this episode. I think that this has been a great rebound. And you may not like what I got to say next, but I can't say that I'm mad at the Scott brothers this week. Now, you're probably going to turn this off. But on your way out, please like this video. Let's get into this episode. Okay, y'all, so yeah, as I was saying, quite a great rebound from last week's episode. You saw how I was last week. That's my mood and all that good stuff, but very good episode. And it's with the OGs. The OGs that are finally not having these round the mountain same conversations we've been having season after season, even though it still involves the same type of crap, but in a different way. I was not impressed. I was happy about the results. So, we begin at Sculpt. Now, we've been seeing forever and a day. Sculpt offices, they've been looking very bare. No walls were up, nothing. Just the outer shell. Well, it looks like it's coming along. And of course, Tisha is still saying, well, it looks nice. I can't wait for Sculpt Realty, I forgot which one she said, Realty I can have my office and all that stuff. And Marcel just really took Tisha to the side and just said, hey, it's really bothering me at how you try to treat me in regards to this whole office situation for you. You're acting like I'm putting you on the back burner, like we don't have multiple projects that are in the works at this moment. Now, I know y'all want to use Sculpt, but Tisha, if you were just that hell-bent on getting your office done, why didn't you just hire another contractor? Now, Marceau probably didn't want to put out any money. Fine. But, anyways, you're saying that I'm trying to put you on the back burner, and then when I get home, you treat me like I'm putting your stuff on the back burner. And that's not it. I need you to trust me, and I need you. And this is what was going on in the conversation. And I feel like Tisha was being manipulative. When Marceau starts making a point, then it's like, oh, well, you gotta have some grace for me. You know, I've been really frustrated. I don't want to work from home and all the stuff that we had going on last year. What were you having going on last year, Tisha? Because it wasn't documented, unless you're talking about moving into a different home. But I thought that was already scheduled for those renovations. So, what's been going on? I just felt like that was some type of manipulation tactic to excuse how you've been feeling. So both of them are saying, I need grace. Basically, no one's really listening at each other. But I don't think that Marceau's going to listen to Tisha because you're trying to treat me a certain way, and why don't you have grace for me? I'm getting it done. Still give it some time. And another thing, Tisha, I am a little bit lost because you were just saying that you miss being a stay-at-home mother. Now, I know that it can be taught, but I just get confused because it's like, oh, okay, so you just want to be Tisha Scott, the wife and mother. But I think you have 2 degrees. But anyway, okay, so you're still ambitious and you want to be boss. Cool. We'll go with it for this episode. We'll see what happens in future episodes down the line. All right, so Maurice drops by Kimmy's office or whatever. She's doing some business, and they talk about Maurice Jr. They're saying that there was an arrangement for Maurice Jr. to have his own car. However, his grade's got to come up. And it's a little bit disappointing because it's like, well, I got the car, but the keys are still in my possession because he has not raised his grades up. Now, I could have sworn that this is his senior year. That's cool. But I do want to know some things. Because you've been really pushing off sports as a way for him to get into college. Have the grades been first and foremost in the Scott 2.0's home? Just asking questions. Because, again, you weren't really pushing the grades and all that. You could have, but we were seeing, at least it was highlighted into you pushing your son into football or whatever, get in through sports. So Maurice goes on to say at how Maurice Jr. wants to be like Jalen, but he doesn't have that same work ethic. Meaning, I guess they didn't have to really push him to get his grades and all that together. But then why does Jalen feel the way that he does? Like, it's stuff like that. Y'all seen Jalen excelling and stuff, but Jalen already said y'all treat him different than you treat me, or treated me, at least growing up. I don't know. I mean, I know that Jalen's an adult, and the junior is about to be an adult. Well, by age-wise, that don't mean that you're an adult when you turn 18. Sorry. I'm just a little bit lost. Too bad that they didn't have some type of family counseling. Not saying that you all can't have family counseling, but it's just like, do you really want it at this point? Kimmy says, well, how you like to approach things and think that people should act, it's out of the way that you were raised. It's more have been a survival mode to get yourself up out of poverty, and I'm never going back there again. That's the type of mentality that Maurice has. And now you're trying to put those same beliefs and tactics into Junior, who didn't have the life that you had. And of course, what did he say after that? At least Maurice, he was in his confessional. He may have said it to her face too. Said, you know, Kimmy's got a point. You know, he doesn't ever acknowledge his wife normally. We start to learn that his dad went to prison. I said, we 10 seasons in, and we're just learning about prison? Am I missing something? I mean, I know you probably don't want to talk about your family because they're not on the show and all that good stuff, but it probably would help us to understand some of y'all weirdos on the show if you would just tell us something, you know? Because my God. And it's just like, I see similarities between Marcel and Maurice, and at the same time, they're two different people. At the same time. It's interesting. Kimmy goes on to say, well, you know, you have all of this to say, and we got all these conversations about Junior and all that good stuff, but you're not really open to accountability. Kimmy said in her confessional, like, well, Maurice can, in these conversations or whatever, he's apt to tell you what's wrong with you, but can't embrace it when someone else says something about him. He can't get himself to that place. Arrogancy and pride. So at this point, Maurice is willing to have therapy, even though he's been really against it because he said no one person knows everything, but you act like you know everything. And then Kimmy says, you know, you find it easy to blame me for things and situations. It's easy to say, oh, well, Kimmy, that's what you believe. That's what all the time. Is it now that I wanted to say something about Kimmy? I think now. Well, there's something that Maurice says during his therapy session that you're trying to act like it's so foreign as to what Kimmy says. But at the end of the day, when we get there, Kimmy is right. In a lot of situations and a lot of conversations, you, for whatever reason, cannot hear it from your wife. Could it be misogynistic? I don't know. But for some reason, you do not want to hear it. But if someone else says the same thing that Kimmy said, you're like, you're right, you're right. And the first person in a marriage that you should be accountable to and should be able to submit to is your spouse. And it's no big deal if you get something or a revelation from anyone else. But if two become one, y'all should be in sync with each other. And that's an issue with marriages now. It's two individuals that have to learn to become one. And you don't get that the first, second, third. It's a lifelong time, a lifelong union to become a union and unit together with one another. I ain't married or whatnot, but I've learned some fundamentals, and I know I probably don't understand everything until I actually get married. But I know some of the foundation of things. And some of this stuff doesn't even just account to just marriages. It counts for just relationships that you do have, friendships, business relationships, parent and child relationships, a lot of those things. In different ways, they function different, but have some of the same principles in them. I know it feels like I'm just going off into a tangent, but this first half of this episode, yeah. We move on to Chris and Dale. I kind of didn't want this scene, to be honest, because we're going right back into a circle. Nell tells Chris about her experience during this winery trip and knowing that teacher's throwing jabs and shots and all that stuff. Chris said, and it was about the snakes thing, like, I knew, you can't play with me like I didn't know. I knew, because I called it out last week. It was just shade towards Nell to try to make a point. Chris says that if you own it, what does that say about you? Oh, Chris? You calling out your wife? Like, don't pay attention to it. Don't let that in you, I guess that's what he was saying. She goes on as to her conflict with Tisha and da-da-da-da-da. And Chris wants to know, what is the problem between you and Tisha? It's you and Marcel. Marcel said, well, we already seen them go on live saying that they aren't discussing anything that's on the internet. So what did you do to her? So he was actually holding her accountable. And I'm also glad that Nell didn't go off, because 0 to 100 Nell. She said, well, I did talk about her marriage. And I said, if she don't keep my name out of her mouth, or I'm going to just start talking about your marriage. So that was the catalyst of whatever's going on with Tisha and Nell, blah, 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 blah. Nell says that I'm not holding anymore. And if she don't leave me the F alone, I'll start dropping names. If you ain't dropping names by now, I honestly don't want to hear it. You know me personally, if you're on this channel, I just don't care. A lot of y'all in YouTube land, y'all do care, because you want to feel right about what you guys have been saying for years and years and years. And congratulations, happy birthday. It's just not something important to me. That girl's still not leaving. Them women aren't leaving those men, so Tisha, we're back with her. She has planned something for Marceau. And I'm surprised she did that, because she knows how Marceau gets. But this was probably the only way that she could have gotten him to do anything, if she sprung it on him. But you better be glad that he participated. Tisha has scheduled for a love and intimacy coach to show up, so that they could be better communicators with one another. Not saying it's a bad deal. And I really enjoyed the scene a lot, just to let you know that. We get a little bit of their relationship when they first got together, like a couple months later. Marceau proposed to her. Even though it took like a year later, they ended up getting married. Now, I heard it was a shotgun wedding, but I don't know if it's true or not. I can't remember that far. But anyways, they get into the whole intimacy versus sex type of thing. Tisha's trying to play along with the stereotype that men don't really want to be touching. They basically just want to get to the sex. Marceau said, look, I'm here with you, but are we going to tell the truth? Tisha, you know that there are just times I just want to hug, I want to cuddle, I want to do this. I want that touch. And it's you that's not really available to do that for me. She tried to say, well, hugging usually leads to sex. Marceau said, no, I don't have to. In the midst of the conversation, I don't have to have all of that all the time. Totally different from when we get to 2.0. But anyways, Tisha says, growing up, I didn't really get hugs. I didn't get all this stuff. So I'm not really prone to actually doing all of this. So they do these touching exercises. She touches his ears, massages his ears, and like, I hear you, da-da-da-da-da. They get in other intimate positions. At that point, the coach had left the room and whatnot, and they continued to talk a little bit more. Tisha did let out that, I am still guarded. I'm guarded with you, because I'm not all the time confident that you love me. And she was talking about the way that she defends him, or even their marriage, but you won't defend me. And Marceau says, because I'm not feeding into any of that. In a way, I get it. But then, it's hard. It's hard. I get why Marceau doesn't. It's just like, I'm not paying it. I really think it's the right way to do. I think that there's just been so much that's been put out there that has just been so like that Maya Angelou. That's where I'm at right now. You know, it's kind of hard if you see her windmilling and you just sit back, and then she just kind of is the fall guy in this whole situation. Even though you have encouraged her over and 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 over again to stop giving in to it. Letitia, I just find it very whack that you're like the big bad wolf outside of the home, and then you admit, I mean, I get it. You don't really want to show your left hand what the right hand is doing, but at the same time, you're just as fragile. You're just as, you're not as confident. And he said, basically, you just believe what the blogs are saying. You believe what the comments are saying. And that's just not that. And I don't like, look, there's a version out there that's being portrayed about me, and then there's a version of me that you know. We've been together for 19 years. You know that version, but you want to believe what that other portrayal is. Could there be truth to it? Because of somebody that's been with you for 19 years that has all these doubts. Now, words have power. Words do travel. And it could be the influx of all that got her doubting, or there could be some truth to even why she's even feeling convicted in that way. However, as I said before, do I believe that there's something that's been going on? Yeah. Do I care? No. Is this it? I think this is it. Yeah. So he did say, you know, I don't accept some of the labels that are being put on me. Narcissist, controlling, da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. I'm a hard working man trying to provide for my family. And I really was convinced of what he was saying. He says, can I work on how I deliver certain messages to you? Yes. But you're not going to attach those different labels on me. And with everything within me, I do believe him. I know y'all have turned away. I believe him. And that doesn't erase that how he has portrayed himself for the last 10 years, or 10 seasons. I won't say years. I can't escape that. I cannot let that go. Because it's just like, ugh. But whatever. I believe him in this moment. And I may feel something different next week. However, in this moment, I'm going to believe it. Because it just seems like there is some type of genuineness and sincerity that's coming out of Marceau. Like we're finally seeing something different. Because I've seen how these two have communicated with each other over the years. I've seen their back and forth. I've seen him in so many ways do whatever was necessary to get Tisha to back down. Because a lot of times in those type of arguments, Tisha would start out really strong, but then he finds ways to beat her down in order for her to finally wave the white flag. I've seen it so many times. So I know how it is. He's got some manipulative tactics. I think that Tisha got some manipulative tactics too, if I'm going to be honest. In this episode, I saw a lot more vulnerability, and I saw some sincerity, and I saw some something genuine and authentic out of Marceau. You can shoot me now. Now, let's get on to the other ones. They have this live marriage counseling session with Sonia and Derek. Now, Derek looks like I can't say former. Well, I guess I can. But whatever. Kevin Samuels. You know, the other life coach, relationship guru, toxic man that was out there. I was like, ooh. I was like, did he come back out of that grave or what? But anyway, they have some tasks that they got to do. They have been having marriage counseling via a web, like FaceTime, like. And now this is the time for them to be live. This is a way for the counselors to read body language and all that good stuff and just call out what needs to be called out. Anyways, there's this task that they got to do. And I even forgot what the task is, but basically about what they want to see out of their marriage. Time, sex, and intimacy. Kimmy says that she doesn't get quality time out of Maurice. It's sex if we have time alone together. And it's even the amount of sex. And basically, she's not getting turned on. He's getting what he wants and needs, and she's not getting it. And I'll say what I need to say a little bit later. And now from this not logical place, from this headspace of how am I going to have time? How am I going to have quality time? You know, are you telling me that I need to X out my sex time in order to have some quality time? That's Kimmy's love language, is quality time. And you don't want to give that. It's not a marriage. And it's not really love making if you're just getting yours and your partner is not getting theirs. Maurice, you're using her as a whole. And I think somebody needs to be frank with them about that. She is just a whole to you to satisfy your urges, your fetishes, your all of this stuff that's really built up, as the counselors did say, like you're just hypersexual. However, I'm so grateful for these therapists because they really dug into Maurice to really tap into some stuff that we have not heard in all of these years. But before we get there, Kimmy says, that quality time, that's what I need to get you what you need. She thinks that if she gets what she needs, the sex will even be greater, where you won't have to have all of the sex that you are requiring. He's like, whoa. Kimmy described her day as at least 2-3 times a day. They can have sex at 6 a.m. By 10 a.m., he wants some more. That's a lot. To go a little bit personal, I do have a friend who says he's quite sexual. His sex drive is high. He's in an open relationship, so he has multiple partners that his partner, his person, approves of. Now, he has sex 6 days out of the 7 days. He has sex multiple times in a day. And it may not be the same person in one day. And I have had a lot of talks where I'm like, you're trying to say that this is your sex drive, but I think that there's something else there. And I think that you need to really search yourself in regards to all that. One person can't fulfill you. 2 people can't fulfill you. 3 people can't fulfill you. And I could keep going further, but I won't. I'm like, no. Like, you take one day, so you're just going to be like God, and on the 7th day, he rested? Like, that's not making any sense. However, he is the type of person that connects through sex. And I think that that's something that he's got to work on there. And then there's times where he does develop feelings for these people who ain't supposed to be important, now have become important in his life. All because of his sex and his connecting and his way of connecting, or an avenue, I'll say. He said he has other ways of connecting outside of sex, but this is on the forefront. So, they talk a little bit, the counselors do, with Maurice about self-soothing. He said that he was taught growing up, I can lay down more than you can stand up. I'm like, what the world? Who taught him all that? Of course, with the man, man's got to have it. We know that. We get that. You have a partner that you say that you love is saying that it's too much. Now, you either go get someone that can handle you, or you work with them. Instead of this, you're in your 40s, and you're still running around, hopping around like you're a teenager. Like you are Pac-Man, and just gobbling up as much sex as you can. And it's not just you, Maurice. You're not alone in this whole situation. So I ain't coming at you at this point. They started talking about self-soothing. Like a baby that has a pacifier. That they get so used to the pacifier. Or they'll suck their thumb. Things of that nature. They didn't say that, but I'm saying it. But as far as a pacifier, they did say. They get so prone to it, like they need it as a way of self-soothing. Some babies wake out of their sleep when they realize that it's not in their mouth. Pacifier, or sometimes even milk. I don't have children, but I've been around a lot of babies, so. So we dig even deeper into Maurice. We talk a little bit about his past trauma with his father. He had a lot of brothers and sisters in the home. I think he got like 7 or 8 other siblings, or even more. His father, growing up, would lock the refrigerator door. And they say, well, possibly because of all the mouths he had to feed and all that. He had to lock on the door. And they asked him, how did he feel about that? He said, I was angry, and confused, why it's there. Why can't we eat when we want to? He felt like it was unfair and also cheated. And also embarrassed. And I said, there we go. That's where that pride comes from. That's where that pride comes from. Because part of pride is embarrassment. I said, okay, so now I'm starting to understand you in that way and why you act the way that you do, even though you get on my nerves. However, I get where it's at least coming from. With all those type of reactions or feelings within inside of him, angry, confused, feeling like it was unfair, he was cheated, you're trying to find a way to now sue and also find control. Something that you can control, which was really controlling you. And we can get into that later on. Lust. Kimmy said, let's talk about how you soothe yourself. And then Kimmy said, well, let's talk about when you were growing up and you and your brothers had adult magazines, and probably videos and all that good stuff. That was the way to soothe. And that was also a way, I believe, to rebel and also to gain control. Yeah, you had to watch out for somebody finding out your stash. However, it's something that you can control. Or at least you think you control. But lust controls you at this point in your life as a 40-something-year-old man. It does. It does. Because lust don't regard anything. It just wants to be fulfilled. So you don't even regard your wife when she's saying, I need this out of you. I don't want to be a hole for you. Kimmy says that when you just want to have sex with me and don't want to give me what I need, I feel sad. I feel disconnected. And unloved. And for what I'm asking you to do, it doesn't feel like it's a big task. All Maurice is trying to see how's he going to fit that into his schedule. Just like you do that to your son. Because I still remember you don't spend time with your son. It's in the car on the way to school and possibly on the ride home. But those are when Martin Luther King speeches come up out of you. It's a blessing that Junior is not any different. Like, he's not out here trying to do stuff. I'm sure that there is some more in ways that you lack. Kimmy tries to make up for it, of course. Sometimes just with the father and all that. He needs that type of attention. But yeah. So Maurice ended up confessing, through therapy and all that, I understand that I lack emotional intelligence. I said, there we go. There we go. And I realized it's huge as far as me not lacking in it. Not lacking in it, but lack emotional intelligence. Kimmy was talking about, because of his past trauma and how he was raised, I would make excuses as far as how Maurice behaves. But she says, I can't do that anymore. I can't make excuses for what I think that I deserve within my marriage. And I said, thank you, Kimmy. Thank you, Kimmy. There's accountability that I feel like Kimmy took. It's just saying I can't keep making excuses for my husband just because. And I just got to be for real about it. And I am going to put me first, Lucius. Or at least put us first before trying to uphold something because of your trauma. That probably should have been dealt with a long time ago. But here we are. So, I'm not mad with Maurice during the session. Yes, the clip that went viral said one thing and it was still the truth as to what Maurice was saying. However, I feel like, at least at this moment, he recovered from it. And like I said, this episode, I'm not mad at either Marceau or Maurice because we actually got someplace. So, I want to say bravo to y'all. Are y'all still with me? Just like the video, please. Like it. That's all I ask. But yeah, I'm okay. I'm okay with how things are going. And as much as I'm ready for the OGs to leave this show, they did something that I didn't think that they were capable of at this point. At this point of the show. And this is what I've been needing for seasons from you guys. And you probably have been guarded. And I get it. And a lot of us have been rooting for the show. And a lot of us have given up. And I was really ready to give up. But this helped you recover. Then the next episode looks like it's going to be good and meaty too. So, hey. Yeah. So y'all, let me know what you thought. Disagree with me, agree with me. Whatever you want to do. I appreciate all thoughts and comments. Just don't get disrespectful. I do appreciate everyone for coming to my channel. And if you stuck it out this long, thank you. Please like, comment, share, and do this boy a favor and subscribe. And until the next one, peace. it.